crimes, and this is a big issue today. We have an issue of organized crime. We have the drug, trafficking, human trafficking coming into the countries, and we have the terrorist issues. Have we been able to contain terrorist issues? I think a great effort, and in fact, from day one, the US-Saudi, the US-GCC cooperation was fantastic in this issue. It cannot be better, as a lot of officers, will address that issue. They have really dealt with it extremely well. All the functionality when it comes to the intelligence committee, security committees, defense committees, they're all functioning very well, and they all meet regular, and they all exchange between them. And this is why the cooperation was not only in a unilateral basis, it was in a multilateral basis. We have seen that cooperation extended to neighboring countries like Yemen, like Iraq, so a lot of cooperation. There have been cases where we have helped countries like India by informing the alien situation, and cases where we have helped countries like the US on the last Yemen attempt, going from Yemen to Dubai and then to the US. So that sort of cooperation and coordination have taken place there. So if you look at the danger, there's a danger on the government, the attempt sometime even to assassinate some of the ruler and so when it comes from the terrorist side, and the danger on the people side. And the people, of course, have suffered in that, and there is a great local support on those efforts in really fighting terrorism and dealing with extremism and dealing with these issues. I think I've stuck to my 10 minutes. Okay.
You take a minute to wrap up.
Okay, fine. If I take a minute to wrap up. We value the relation with the US. We have a great value for that one. But to tell you, out of the security dimension, there is a sort of a disappointment. And the disappointment, I think, might be from the same side. Somebody yesterday was saying something very interesting. He said, King Hussein used to say, when I wake up in the morning, I think of the US. And he said, many people at the Congress here, when they wake up in the morning, they don't think of the Middle East. They have plenty of domestic issues to think about it. But the world is so interlinked, and the relation between the Middle East, the Arab world, the Gulf region, with the US is quite crucial. The US is the most important country. We look toward this country with many things. When I talk about globalization, the best example for me is the US. And when I talk about internationalization, when I talk about many issues, the US always is the great example. Today, this disappointment comes from a certain policies that have been taken in the region, has a great effect and a great impact. And I'm sure I will not interfere in what Mustafa would have to say there, but again, repeating it on Iraq, we are disappointed. In Iran, there's a disappointment. In Afghanistan, there's a disappointment. And this disappointment, because maybe there should have been a better coordination. Maybe there had been much more in-depth discussion about it, finding out what do we need to do together. And today we have a situation. I mean, just talking about to a colleague a few minutes ago about Egypt, I said, if we bring the two efforts, the Gulf and the American together over Egypt, the US can help with a lot, with technical, with know-how support, with expertise, with people that they know how to solve problem and how to bring it. And also funding can be very much committed, because the first two countries from the region have shown commitment was Saudi Arabia with a $4 billion injection to the US economy, and the Qatari have agreed to put $10 billion to expand the Suez Canal, because they need the big gas tanker to go through. So the more cooperation, the closer it is, the better understanding, the less the gap, between the two, and the more that we have, this sort of, understanding, because the relation goes to 1930. As I said before, people remember that it was the United States who liberated Kuwait, who saved the region from a major issue. So we don't want you to lose a lot of this position. We don't want you to lose the gain that the US have gained because of the support to the Arab Spring and the Arab Revolution by a decision in New York that will jeopardize the whole thing, that will set back the whole thing, that will bring back the whole conspiracy theory back into place. Look at your friend the US when it comes to the tit for tat. This is a human being. They are the same in Tunisia. They are the same people in Egypt. Why do they support them in Tunis and Egypt and not in Palestine? This is the people that they deserve to have their home. And at the same time, we're not talking about an outside policy. We're talking about a U.S. policy issue. It's the U.S. that who have came up with the two-state solution. So we're not supporting something that the U.S. have not talked about it or brought it into the table. I think with that, I will keep it here, and I'll be happy, of course, as I said, if you want me to lend you some question, I'll be happy to tell you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you for taking the trouble to come and listen to us. So, yeah. Okay. The question of regional security in the Gulf, we have long history of disagreement with the United States. The disagreement on the priority, because we see priority differently from what the United States look at in the region. Since 9/11, the priority of the United States concentrates on one thing: counter-terrorism. This is the priority of the United States. For us, terrorism has become manageable threat. It is a threat, but it's manageable threat. It's no longer a major threat. But for us, still, if you look at the money paid to Yemen, the effort, the committees, all focus on counter-terrorism, most of it. For us, we look at our neighborhood. We have a very tough neighborhood. And we look first at Iraq. What's now Iraq present for us? Basically a sectarian state, and we have evidence of the sectarian policy during the Bahraini crisis. The support came from Iraq, at least in media, political support, came to the certain sector of the Bahraini community. The alliance with Iran is a major issue for us, because Iraq was representing for us a buffer state between the GCC and the Gulf state, between the Gulf state and Iran. And all of a sudden, we discovered something. We are not losing this buffer state only, but we're losing this buffer state to Iran as well. So it is double impact. We lost this, and we lost it to Iran. So practically now we have some sort of border with Iran, a virtual border with Iran. And this is a major issue. I mean, if you live in the Gulf region, it's a major issue, not because the Islamic Republic, even in the time of the Shah, we have the problem with Iran that the Iranians think they are the master of the region, and the Shah declared himself as a policeman of the region, and the image in Tehran that we have to knock the door before we take any major decision. And this for us is not acceptable. Apart from, we have a very corrupt state. The terrorism is still very, very active in Iraq. Sectarianism. You have the issue now for us, at least for the foreseeable future. Now there is a lot of talk in Baghdad and Iraq. We monitor the Iraqi parliament. We monitor the Iraqi press. The question of relation with Kuwait. Very strong voices now calling for the cancellation of 1993 agreement, border agreement with Kuwait. And this will have a huge implication. And the Iraqi have more or less, they put an argument which a lot of people believe makes some sense. That if the Saddam Hussein government is illegitimate government, anything produced by illegitimate government is illegitimate.